Captain's log. Still no idea of the stardate. Scotty has locked himself in his drinks cabinet and is refusing to come out until I tell him Welshie wasn't a better character than him. I have refused so far because when he's not tinkering with the engines, they actually seem to work. Our mission today is to review the second Star Trek film, The Wrath of Khan. To that end, we are en route to a meeting with the USS Reliant. According to Starfleet Command, there's someone on board that ship who knows a thing or two about this film. Mr. Spock, what can you tell us about this film? The second Star Trek film is where the silver screen series really finds its feet. By the end of the first film, everyone is clearly comfortable in their roles on the new sets, and everyone knows what they're doing. Yes, getting the first film made was quite a battle, and the end result shows that to some extent. But now, the battle is over, and this is, in essence, a victory lap. The story revives an antagonist from the original TV show and rebuilds him into a cunning man out for revenge on Kirk. It's a very personal conflict for both Kirk and Khan, and that instantly grounds the film in a way that the previous outing could never quite manage. The story is streamlined and far more focused, which works brilliantly, and we get a sense that the whole thing is all about this one conflict. We don't spend half the film being expected to gaze in awe at the special effects. We get straight to the point. That's not to say there aren't any special effects, and plenty of recycled footage from the original film, to keep costs down. But everything is very obviously put in place solely to tell a good story. It makes for a much better film. The uniforms are also improved this time round. These red jacket uniforms are the best ones for the original series cast. They look more like an actual uniform, rather than the onesies that everyone was wearing in the previous outing for some reason. Last time, the crew looked like they'd just emerged from a deep sleep unit. This time, they look like they're ready for action. Action is what we get too, but not in a way a blockbuster sci-fi fan might be expecting. Kirk and Khan battle with their wits far more than they do with phasers. It's a game of chess with them. Each is trying to maneuver the other into a corner, so he can gain the upper hand. It's the way two smart men with grudges could be expected to actually satisfy their grievances, and it plays out well. While Kirk has always had the reputation of being a gung-ho action hero, there are many times in the original series where he used his brain to solve problems, so it's good to see this side of him getting a chance to shine on the big screen. In that respect, the superhuman Khan is the perfect foe to pit him against. It's mind against mind, for very high stakes. That's not to say other people don't get a chance to shine in this as well, of course. While most of the crew are relegated to bit parts against the main story, something that sadly happens to both the original and Next Generation crews in every single film outing, we do get a very good storyline for Spock. I quite agree. He begins as a teacher, training cadets to take command, and instructing them on the fact that for many Starfleet captains, there will always be a situation you simply can't get out of. He teaches them they must face death if they want to be in Starfleet, and sometimes that means making the ultimate sacrifice. Spock is a man of his word, and he demonstrates that in this film, with the famous ending showing he's not all talk and no action. He's willing to make the sacrifices he expects of others. It also gives his friendship with Kirk and his trust of McCoy despite their butting heads for decades a chance to take center stage. Kirk, Spock, and McCoy are the eternal trio, always together and always capable of battling whatever foes they come across, as long as they are together. Well, almost always. It's a fitting end to a film about the consequences of your past actions coming home to roost. I've seen many people online comment about how this film shows Kirk and Spock aren't all that dissimilar, as the emotional and action-oriented Kirk takes the cerebral route to solving problems, while the always cerebral Spock takes action to solve his problems this time round. Both win, but both have to pay a heavy price for stepping out of their usual roles. It's an interesting point, and I think it works very well. It all leads up to a wonderful and very emotional end to the film. Shatner's best acting as Kirk is done during his final speech, and the film will leave you with a solid emotional experience that is unmatched in the rest of the Star Trek film series. Captain, we are being hailed by the Reliant. on screen. Hello, Captain. Khan! Do you have to do that every time I meet you? Yes! Okay, fine. Can I get on with my part of the review now? Please do. That's not to say the film is entirely perfect, of course. The brain slugs that turn Chekhov into an unwilling pawn of Khan are a terrible idea that really only seems to be here to get Khan onto a spaceship quickly, and there would have been far better ways to do it, to be honest. Especially since the Starfleet officers he meets don't know he was there, so he had the element of surprise. The idea of Khan having been dumped on a nice planet that turned bad was a great one, but the long conversation talking about which planet was which and how Starfleet got the planets confused was nonsensical and just makes Starfleet's censors look like they can't tell one planet from another. Were these two planets they were confused over exactly the same size, at exactly the same distance from their star? Did Starfleet not take one look at the star and think, hey, that's changed since the last survey? Was that bridge crew asleep at the wheel? Come on, they should have been better than this. The plot should have had Starfleet officers on the ground because they were surveying the planet after the change to the star had altered its biome, with them then getting ambushed by Khan and his crew. The confusion and the mind slugs were totally unnecessary. Also, Khan is too trusting at the end of the film. Kirk was obviously stalling for time, and Khan never calls him on it. That never sat right with me. Aside from these issues, though, the film is excellent, and I'm always very happy to give it a rewatch, so I have no hesitation in giving this film 4 out of 5 phases.
If you liked today's video, please consider supporting me on Patreon. And an extra special thanks goes out to Chief89 and Tepic. Thank you.